Hey guys, and welcome to another lesson on the Level 4 Beginner Guitar course with me, Rex Pearson from rexpearson.com. I hope you guys are doing alright, and I hope you've got your chord progressions nailed and you're coming up with some cool ideas. That's what we were covering in the previous lesson. Okay, we're moving on to a totally new topic now. Well, not totally new, but it's going to be building on your knowledge that you've been working on in the Level 3 course, which was a couple of scales that you learned, and you learned one which was the pentatonic scale. And we called it the first position pentatonic minor scale. That's the name of the scale. Sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. It's just a group of notes that work really well over a certain chord progression. Generally ones that are in the key of A, if you're playing the scale in the key of A. So, the next part that I wanted to do, when you're learning scales, it's great to be able to play in one position. It's great to be able to play in one position, but you'll find after a little while that the melodies that you're coming up with, the types of things that you're playing, start to get a bit limited because you can only play within that range of your guitar, and you've got a lot of frets, you've got a lot of real estate that you can work with here. You don't have to stick into one place, you can extend it. You can extend it across the fretboard and you can come up with some better sounding licks, some interesting riffs, and you're a lot more free over the fretboard. So to start developing this, I'm going to show you a couple of tricks you can use to extend the fretboard, and we're going to also learn the second position. So the lesson's going to go like this. I'm going to teach you the scale shape, I'm going to teach you the fingering, how to play it, then I'm going to teach you a couple of licks in this second position so you can straight away start using it, and then I'm going to show you a couple of tricks of blending the scale shapes together. Because what we're going to do is you've already learned the notes of the pentatonic minor here, we're going to learn the notes here, so they slightly overlap each other, and then eventually in the more advanced courses we build up the fretboard one piece at a time until you can fly all over the neck without actually having to think about the notes that you're playing too much. You can just think about making something musical, because that's the main point of a scale. Now obviously this is for people who are looking at going into sort of lead playing, but if you're just a rhythm player and you're looking at expanding your knowledge and figuring out what the lead guitarist is doing, then this is a great lesson for you as well, because you can learn some of the scale position shapes. So first up then, let's learn the second position of this pentatonic minor scale. Okay, just like we usually do, we're going to start off on the low strings and we're going to learn to play ascending and descending and get it into our mind. So I'll get the scale shape over here to give you a bit of guidance, and then I'm going to show you. The fingering for this scale is quite important. The second finger goes on, this is the 8th fret because we're still playing it in the key of A here. So the first note is now a C. Second finger on this. Now you'll see that my fingers are slightly lined up along each fret. I've lined them up like that on purpose. Whenever a note falls on the 7th fret, I'm going to use the first finger. Whenever it's the second finger, it's going to be on the 8th fret. 9th fret will be taken by the 3rd, and the 4th finger will take the note above that. That is a great way of learning to play scales correctly. Line up 4 frets, because usually the scales never leave this 4 fret gap, and it means that you play the scales accurately and with the right fingers as well. You're not going to be, I mean, a lot of people will learn scales like this, but that's no good if you're trying to play something that sounds smooth and flowing, like even something like, you're going to have to go, and your hand's going to be moving all over the place. So by learning the correct fingering, you're going to do yourself a lot of favours, and that's one of the rules that I like to teach people. 4 frets, 4 fingers. Let's start. First note is on this 8th fret. 4th finger then goes down. Then you're going to have a 1-4 combination. So that's the 7th fret and the 10th fret on the A string. Then you're going to have same again on the next string. And while you're doing this, you want to be building it up slowly. So maybe go through those first 3 strings. Try an alternate pick the whole time, because it's good practice, like I've been teaching you. Okay, next note. 1st and then 3rd finger this time. Then you're going to have 2-4, 2-4. So 2nd finger on this 8th fret, then the 10th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret. So let's go up, ascending. And then you want to descend. 4-2, 3-1, 4-1, 4-1, and 4-2. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the second position minor pentatonic scale. Learn to play it all the way ascending, all the way descending, and then we're going to have a little bit of a play around with these notes. Okay, so that was the riff. It was quite a fast riff. It sounds cool even when you play it slow though, so that's the main thing. Let me teach you the riff. It's all using the second position that we've just covered. Nice and slow now, it sounds like this. Now I'm going to use the fingering that we've been working on, but what you'll find is if you've got a lot of notes in one area of the fretboard, you don't have to stick quite so rigidly to this fretboard shape that you've learned, because the beginning of the riff would use the 4th and 2nd fingers. But what you might find is that's quite difficult, and there's no reason why you have to stick to that rigid framework when you're dealing with just the notes along the bottom. It's only if you're doing a long scale run from low all the way to high that it's good to keep your hand in one position. If you find that a lick is based around one area of the fretboard, you can break away from those rules slightly and it's not going to harm you. So I'm going to teach you it using this sort of new fingering type. 10th fret on the highest note of the pentatonic scale, and then you're going down to the A. Then you're going to go to the B string and do this little lick. So that's the first part of the lick. Next part of the lick, so learn that on its own, repeat it, pull it into a loop and practice it until you've got it. Next part is, so you're starting on the 8th fret on the B string. So after you've done that, you continue down the scale, 4th finger, 4th finger. So you've got basically a descending part of the scale. Once you hit that with the 4th finger, or you can use the 3rd, but I'll recommend using the 4th, you then got to flatten off the finger, and this is the hardest part of the riff, to get back onto the 10th fret on the D string, and finishing on the 7th fret with the 1st finger. So you've got this sort of, once you hit that note you descend. Roll. So you've got to roll that finger and finish on there. So the full riff. It'll be good to practice that with a metronome, so you can feel where the beat is going to land. Because there's some quite complex rhythms going on in that little lick there, but it's a really cool one for developing your knowledge of the second position scale, because that's why we're learning the lick. It's not just to play something musical, but it's also to learn that position in a musical way. So learn that lick. Good job, guys. Final thing we're going to look at is how we blend two scales together to make it a little bit more natural.